I think this is a really good matchup at 135, but whoever wins this fight is for sure propelling themselves into a major title contender fight.
What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, we have a really good main event at bantamweight this coming weekend. We got the former champion Cody Garbrandt taking on what seems to be an unstoppable force at 135 these days in Rob Font.
Yeah.
This is a great matchup for me. This is a compelling and exciting matchup for me because, listen, both of these guys like to bite down on their mouthpieces, stand in the pocket, and bang. And that's actually been what has been to Cody's detriment at times in his career, but has made him a fan favorite. Are you excited for this fight as I am?
I'm very excited for this one. And Cody's style is exactly that. You live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Yeah.
He's gonna entertain you, period, end of story. But Rob Font is absolutely a killer, and he's been on a tear. And it's so funny. If you don't know much about Rob Font, everybody knows Cody. If you don't know much about Rob Font, go watch some of the highlights that the UFC's put out. He's a straight up knockout artist. And the camp he's with up in Boston, they're crushing it.
Nice
I've been working on it. And a little fun fact too. I love to find little things out on the internet. You know, everybody that's running the UFC's page, even though, you know, the UFC is such a professional page, right? They're such a professional, you know, industry and everything. But they put highlights of Rob Font. They spelled everything right. And then highlights of Cody Garbrandt, which was so funny to me because they took the R out of Gar, and it sounds like probably what Rob Font sounds like saying Garbrandt, right?
That's interesting. It almost makes you wonder if the UFC made a mistake or if they're so in tune that they did that purposefully.
Yeah, they might have been trolling us, but I definitely took a screenshot of it. So
Cody Garbrandt.
Yeah, Cody Garbrandt. But obviously he's got a bunch of really impressive knockouts and highlights. Rob Font has some killer knockouts and highlights, and I've been getting really jazzed up for this fight, watching these guys get some of these highlight KOs that we've seen. One thing I will say is when you have a free card like this, and it's not a great card, it's kind of underwhelming. There's not a ton of big names or recognizable names on it, but then the main fight is something like this. You know it's going to be good. Those matchmakers in the UFC know exactly what they're doing, and they saw Rob Font open schedule, Cody No Love open schedule. Let's put these guys together. It doesn't matter what else is on the card because the people are going to get their money's worth with that main event, and I fully believe that.
Yeah, and man, I don't even know if I want to make an early prediction on this one. It's such a hard fight to call because you don't know what Cody's going to show up. You know, the Cody Garbrandt that started his career 11-0, that kind of crescendoed into a just dismantling of Dominic Cruz. Or quite frankly, an embarrassment of Dominic Cruz.
That was his peak performance.
Yeah, that was the best, maybe the best 135 performance we've ever seen. Certainly in the top 5. Yeah. But then, you know, he's got the beef with TJ, and what we know about Cody, and if there's anything negative that we can say about him, is he tends to be his own worst enemy at times. He gets in his own head. He allows himself to fight too angry, and that has cost him. He's got 2 knockout losses to TJ. He dropped 3 in a row there at one point. He's got himself a nice win now with a beautiful knockout. He seems to be now almost 30 years old, maturing a bit in the sport, realizing that there is a time to bring out that fan favorite swang and bang, as we call it here in H-Town.
Right.
But there's also a time to be a calculated, skillful fighter, which Cody Garbrandt absolutely is.
Yeah, and I kind of look at him and his career, and more so his fighting style, mirrors a Justin Gaethje. Now, Justin Gaethje he's a great wrestler, just like Cody, but even more credentialed. And he throws every bit of that away. He could be fighting Conor McGregor and, you know, doing red panty night. He could for sure get a win over Conor if he just implemented a little bit of wrestling. Yeah. But we know that's not what he's going to do. He's going to have an entertaining fight, and he's either going to get knocked out or he's going to knock Conor out, right? That's something that Justin Gaethje's going to do, and that's why we love him so much. And Cody is very similar in that way, that he's willing to do anything, even lose, to put on a very entertaining show. And it just seemed like he had caught lightning in a bottle on that night he fought Dominic Cruz, because he was able to stay out of his own head and entertain while playing very composed and just piecing Dominic up, which was really remarkable. We've never seen anybody kind of do that to Dominic Cruz. So I feel like if he can channel that, we're looking at arguably the best 135er on the planet right now. But 9 times out of 10, he's not able to do that. He's able to either knock you out or get knocked out. And I think his chin has been a little bit compromised in recent history. And Rob Font is a strong striker. He punches really well. He sends long punches. You know, believe he trains with Calvin Kattar. And those guys' boxing is legit. They have some of the best boxing in the UFC. And once Rob Font lands on you a couple of times, he hurts you, and then he puts you up against the fence, and then his Muay Thai striking comes into. He's really good with switch knees. He'll throw elbows down on top of you. Very impressive with how he mixes up the striking arts. So I think this is a tough fight for Cody. I love that he took it because, you know, I think this is a really good matchup at 135. But whoever wins this fight is for sure propelling themselves into a major title contender fight.
Yeah, I'm just couldn't be more excited for this one. And I do think you're right. I think so. You're kind of leaning towards Rob Font to probably win this fight. Yeah.
And it's hard to go against the former champ, but Rob Font's just a composed guy. This is his biggest fight to date. I think he's going to be able to seize the moment.
Yeah, see, it's so hard, but I think I'm going to pick Cody to win this fight. And it's simply because I think it would be an absolute mistake, as you laid out, to engage in sort of a boxing firefight with Rob Font because of his precision, his straight punches. Cody does have a tendency to throw some wide looping punches, as we saw in his last highlight reel knockout.
Right.
That was an incredible knockout. But as you said, somebody against the cage who's got good Muay Thai skill might find a switch knee to the dome when you lean down that far. So, Cody's got to be careful getting in there and just brawling. And I think he will. I think, Uriah Faber's his head coach. We all know Uriah's background is in wrestling. You know, Alpha Male was built off of wrestlers that Uriah basically handpicked, TJ Dillashaw being one of them, that he converted to mixed martial artists. So I think that Cody has matured enough that I'm willing to say that he fights a smart fight. And because he's a veteran with 15 fights only, if you can imagine that, but he still is a veteran of the game, on the right side of 30, he is going to do enough to get the job done. I don't think he's going to knock Font out, but I think he's going to win 4 of the 5 rounds. I'm picking Garbrandt by decision, but I'm hesitant because you're picking a potentially knockout by Rob Font.
Yeah.
Cody's 3 losses are all knockouts, and they all happened in the not so distant past.
Yeah.
So that does, as you said, that accumulates. 3 knockouts in a row like that changes the trajectory of your career. So it's hard to say, but just for some parity here, I'm going to lean towards Cody. That's kind of where I was leaning anyways. And then when you said Rob Font, I said, well, we'll make this interesting.
Yeah, Cody has dynamite in his hands. When he hits you and connects right, you go to sleep. So that's why and Rob Font, if he hits you, you go to sleep as well, especially if you've got a chin that's been compromised like Cody's. And that's why I just don't see this fight going the distance. I think there will be a spectacular finish, probably a KO, throw the T in the trash because I don't think they are going to need it. I think somebody's going to sleep. I'm leaning towards Cody getting slept because Rob Font is really good. Okay, and another side that I've noticed is Rob Font's footwork is really good. Not to say Cody's isn't. His is actually some of the best. But Cody does at times when the striking exchanges begin to happen, he plants his feet, gets a little bit heavy in his base, and then starts throwing extra hard. And I get that, you do get a little more power when you do that, but you don't want to be caught stuck in the mud a little bit against Rob Font because he will move in and out, side to side, all around you and hit these angles and hit you in really tough spots that you can't really take that well. So I feel like Cody's footwork is really good when he's on the outside and he can play that game really well. When he plants his feet and starts to dig in, he starts to stay there. He gets a little bit stationary. I think Rob Font's going to make him pay for that. And I see this being I actually kind of see it being a finish early. I think Rob Font's going to get like a second or a third round KO finish.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice, bold
But,
prediction
man, we're
there.
the real winners here. This fight is going to be bananas.
Yeah, this is going to be a great main event on a card that you said is obviously, admittedly, not that strong. You know, had the Shabazi and Hermanson fight taken place in Houston as it was supposed to, this would be a really weak card, but for the main event. But I'm glad that fight's on there. And then obviously the main event's going to be bananas.
Yeah, and Cody's a star, so he can do some heavy lifting and rise all the fighters that are on this card up. So they'll get a lot of eyes on him because everybody wants to see No Love versus Font.
Most definitely. And look out for this card, guys. The ones that we always say don't have the name recognition on them end up being the best fight cards. It just happens that way a lot of the time. But thanks so much for watching this video. If you've enjoyed, we always appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe. Helps us out with the algorithm. And we're growing, guys. We're almost to that 1,000 subscriber mark, and we have you to thank. So we appreciate you watching our videos. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you in the next one.
Peace.